You're probably wondering what's with all these logs. Well, my story might sound like one of those Cinderella tales you hear about in fairy tales or movies. But this is my real life. My name is Laila. I was just 10 when my mom went home to be with the Lord. 2 years later, my dad remarried a woman named Giselda. She came with a daughter my age, Nicole. For a moment, I prayed this could be a fresh start. But after only a year of marriage, tragedy struck again. My dad was taken in a sudden car accident. And that's when my world truly flipped upside down. Now here I am, still living in the house that once held so much love, but I'm no longer the daughter of the home. I've become more like the maid. Giselda and her precious daughter rule every corner, while I serve like an invisible shadow. These logs? They're firewood. You see, Madame Nicole watched some movie about kids camping and suddenly decided she craved roasted marshmallows. And of course, guess who gets to gather and chop the firewood? Me. Because heaven forbid her darling princess cracks a nail or lifts a finger. That's my job now, to make sure the princess stays comfortable while I carry the weight. On the brighter side of my life, when I'm not slaving away for Giselda and her precious daughter, I find peace at church. It's my safe place, my anchor. My mother raised me in the Word, teaching me to walk in the light of Christ. My father once stood beside us, hands lifted in worship, but somewhere, his heart drifted. For the lips of the forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. Proverbs chapter 5 verse 3. That woman was Giselda. Long before my mother was even gone, she had already woven her poison into my father's soul. He became the man Proverbs chapter 5 warns of, blinded by seduction, deaf to wisdom. In the end she is as bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Proverbs chapter 5 verse 4. And now, strangers feast on his wealth, and his labor benefits another man's house. Proverbs chapter 5 verse 10. Everything he built, the house, the business, the security, it all belongs to her now. And to Nicole, I'm nothing more than a servant in the home my parents once filled with love. But I refuse to break. Jesus is my only strength. When I kneel in prayer, I feel his hand holding me steady. And I will not waste the mind he gave me. At school, I worked hard to earn top marks on every exam and assignment, because I had a dream of attending university and studying architecture, and the only way I could make it was through a scholarship. Architecture flows through my blood, it was my parents' passion. I remember how they used to sit together, sketching buildings that looked like they belonged in another world. Their eyes would light up, their hands dancing across the pages. I was their little apprentice, watching from the sidelines. That same fire burns inside me. One day, by the grace of God, I will build my own future, brick by brick, far from here. But for now, I have to endure. Living under the same roof with Giselda and Nicole, who seem to take every breath as a new chance to tear me down, is a battle of its own. One morning, after I'd accidentally slept past 8 a.m., exhausted from scrubbing, cleaning, and cooking into the early hours, they stormed into the attic, where I sleep. Nicole flung a bucket of ice water on my face, and Giselda screamed.
How dare you make us wait for breakfast? Now Nicole will be late for her hair appointment. What is the matter with you?
I'm sorry, I stammered, I overslept. Nicole rolled her eyes and snapped.
Mother, why do we even keep her around? We should just send her off to an orphanage like all the other unfortunate children.
How dare you say that, Nicole? I shouted, voice cracking. You know this was my parents' house. How could you be so heartless?
Watch your tone when speaking to my princess. I will not tolerate backtalk. Now get up and make breakfast.
My heart burned with silent rage. But instead of letting bitterness consume me, I'd slip in my earphones, letting soft worship and scripture verses wrap around me like armor. That's how I survived the insults, the humiliation. Every weekend, they'd go out, hair salons, boutiques, and brunches. I'd stay behind with their laundry and leftovers. Sometimes I'd stare at our home and wonder how my father could have been so blind. So willing to hand over everything, even his life insurance, to a woman who turned his daughter into a maid. But I forgave him, because unforgiveness is its own prison. I got used to their cruelty, until the day everything changed. I remember it clearly. I had just received a letter, and as I sat by the poolside, I couldn't stop smiling. It was the letter, my full scholarship and university acceptance. Years of burning the midnight oil had paid off. Then Nicole snatched the letter from my hands.
Dear Laila, we are pleased to offer you a full scholarship and acceptance into our university.
She read mockingly, bursting into laughter.
Ha, Mother, come look. Laila the maid actually thinks she's going to college.
Giselda grabbed the letter, lit her gold-plated lighter, and without blinking, set it on fire. The flames crackled as my dreams turned to ash. Then, with a shove, she pushed me into the pool. That was my breaking point. I no longer cared that they burned the letter, I was already accepted. But their mockery, their hatred, was too much. That night, while they slept, I packed my bags and left. I ran to the only place I knew I'd be safe, the church. Mrs. Daniels, the caretaker, and her husband were angels in human form. They welcomed me into the tiny cottage on the church grounds and wrapped me in kindness I hadn't felt in years. But Giselda didn't stop there. When she discovered I had left, she stopped paying my school fees. I could have given up, but God didn't let me. The church rallied around me. They helped me find a part-time job at a small coffee shop. I worked, studied, prayed, and fought to finish high school. Graduation came, and so did Giselda and Nicole, in one last attempt to ruin me. They found my gown, slashed it to shreds, and laughed as if it were a game. But God had other plans. Church members stepped in. Mrs. Daniels sewed me a new gown overnight. I walked across that stage covered not in shame, but in the favor of the Lord. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. Psalm chapter 91 verse 11. I graduated, I studied, I stayed focused, and after 4 years, I walked across yet another stage with a degree in architecture. By God's grace, I was hired immediately. I worked tirelessly, saved every cent, and after 5 years, I bought my own house. My own car, my freedom. God had lifted me from the ashes, and crowned me with victory. Then one day, during a business lunch at a fine restaurant, something caught my eye. Outside, standing by the glass, were 2 worn, familiar figures. Giselda and Nicole, begging. I stood, excused myself from the meeting, and walked outside. Giselda? Nicole? They turned slowly. Nicole's eyes welled up with tears. Giselda looked away, ashamed.
Are you here to gloat?
She spat, barely meeting my gaze. No, I said gently. That's not who I am. God didn't make my heart for revenge. Then, Nicole broke down.
Laila, we lost everything. We took out a bond on the house for shopping sprees, loans for clothes, cars. Then I couldn't get a job because of my grades, and the bank took it all. We've got nothing left.
I felt the old pain rise, but forgiveness drowned it out. I bought them a warm meal. Then, after finishing my meeting, I invited them to stay, in my guest cottage. They began coming to church with me. Nicole got a receptionist job at my company. And as the months passed, something in Giselda softened. One night, she approached me, her voice trembling.
Laila, I wonder if God could ever forgive me. For the things I've done to you, for everything I wasted.
I took her hands. Giselda, when God looks at us, he doesn't see our past, he sees his precious creation. His child. All he has for us, is love. So much love. Of course he forgives you. She wept. And I knew in that moment, God had not only restored my life, but he had redeemed hers too. Amen.